I was busy. I didn't make a video for a little while, but there is a subject that I want to go over. There's a lot of interesting stuff about it, and that has to do with labor, different forms of labor, and how the price of labor is collapsing or has been collapsing. And then that brings us to robotics and artificial intelligence, which are replacing many forms of labor. And then that shows up in a problem that the American societies or Western societies are facing, and that's the collapse of their middle classes and the disappearance of many well-paying jobs. And these are very interesting subjects. I had a video about the zero marginal cost society, and the fact that I believe we are going to see massive deflation in the cost of manufacturing many goods, many forms of energy, water, products, and this has a profound impact on society. I don't know if we're aware of it, but we will become surely more aware of it. And basically, politics of a given area is the underlying economics with a lag time, and because the labor cost and labor implementation or use has changed so drastically, it has a huge effect on different countries. If you are a manufacturer, if for example I had an invention and I wanted to mass produce it in different countries, the world that we are living now, I could take this product or this invention or this manufacturing process that's already going on and take it to a lot of countries like Vietnam. I could take it to Malaysia or Indonesia or China or even India or into Latin countries. And what I will find in many of these places is that the labor is extremely cheap. I don't know, in Mexico you can hire somebody for $5 a day, I don't know, but the labor, it's basically like slave labor. I could produce that product or that invention very cheaply, mass produce it. I could also even get financing from countries like China. U.S. government is U.S. banks have been financing many crowdsourcing places. I could get financed. So basically, any product, I'll go into services later, but most products are really nothing more than a disguised form of labor. That's all it is. You have an invention or an idea or a manufacturing process. Say you are making such a widget, and all it is initial setup cost, initial processes, and you have the product, and often it costs very little. And then many manufacturers have been doing this, going to these other countries and bringing the products here and reselling them at the retail price. But we need to think that these retail prices were set up when the Americans in the 50s or 60s, they were doing great. Almost everything was manufactured here except some products. And so these retail prices, they held up for a while, from some decades almost. But for example, I get on the eBay, I could think of the most insane product you can think of. and the manufacturer in China or the grower in Latin America, they can supply me that product very cheaply. First of all, many American companies, they don't produce or make those products. Second of all, even if they were selling it, it would be just the same product that was imported via a different route. For example, Target and Walmart, they sell pretty much the same stuff, but each they have their own markings and their own quantities that come in a package, and they all come from a different route. Target is looks to be a little bit more quality than Walmart, but the stuff is the same, and most of the stuff they come from foreign countries. It's not made here. If you go into Walmart or into Target or into dollar store, 90%, 99% of the stuff is manufactured in China, in India, in Indonesia. I bought shirts were made in Thailand or Malaysia or Pakistan. I bought a bunch of lights, work on batteries because I work in a construction site. It's dark at night, so I bought them very cheaply. $2. I bought the lights. They're great. They're big and they illuminate the place. They're all manufactured elsewhere. If you look at the produce or the food stuff, even meat, they are usually coming from U.S. South. Some is U.S. South. Mostly come from Latin America. I bought herbs. For example, a lot of herbs they are made. Some are made here. A lot of them are made in Latin America. I bought pistachios and nuts. They had grown in Greece, and they shipped it to me. So all these products, they are really a disguised form of foreign labor. They're not American, and in fact, many American companies are shutting down or becoming retail outlets for foreign products, and this has resulted in upheaval. And many middle class or even rich people are very worried that they'll maintain their jobs or their standard of living. But I know some solutions. I know nobody is gonna hear me out or implement them, but I'm gonna present them anyhow. Well, I know that some big companies like Amazon, they are interested in basic income strategies, because there comes a point that the robotics and other forms of labor, which are not even foreign, they are not American, not foreign, not anywhere. They are machines. They're gonna phase out many forms of labor, and well, I guess Amazon is smart enough to understand that they need their customers, and they are passing the buck to the U.S. government, asking them to provide basic income. So basic income is a great idea, and brings out like a plateau that people cannot fall under this plateau in economic terms, and we should make it that everybody can get enough food and housing, and everybody's got some basic money that they can spend. Some, if not a lot, disposable income, and then if they're able, or if the society or our relationship with the neighbors or institutions allow, make additional money without worrying about the basic income that they're supposed to get. This is a great idea. The cheap labor is not going to stop, and you cannot you cannot stop technologies or even ways of doing business that is not outrageous or is not criminal for a company to want to manufacture stuff cheaply. Say, for example, I was a drug manufacturer and could get a lot of my pills, I have it made in India. Why wouldn't I do that? It's just like it's business. It makes money for the companies. Our system is a capitalist system. Who's to say that capitalism and the way it's going and has been going is totally wrong or evil? Well, I might have said that a little while ago. I do say it sometimes, but this is just a mechanism to manufacture stuff, and if we are interested in our economic survival for middle class or other groups, there should be other ways of resolving that problem through basic income or an industrial policy that's not dependent on totally reforming capitalism or becoming communist or if there is other ways the economic system they can go their way and we just work around it anything that has worked in the past there's no reason to completely smash it up or go to third world war just work around it and make other systems that the common Joe can take advantage of them, elevate himself or herself, and yeah, that's a way to go. With artificial intelligence and with robotics, I mean, I think that they're gonna kill 99% of the jobs. They're gonna kill even white-collar jobs. Even the most obnoxious blue-collar jobs, they can be done with a machine. There's no particular reason to hire people, but then the rest of us, we live in the real world, and the thing that the humans they got, that the machines they ain't got, or the cheap labor that's in foreign countries that doesn't have that, is the political influence or legal influence. It's because in capitalist system or even in a communist system, one or some humans will own everything, will own most of the stuff. So for example, right here in the United States, it's mostly investors or the people in the state that legally or are an owner of the many forms of land, many forms of companies, and if the population, if the people they feel threatened by the way that system is going, you could put your foot down. It might be violent or it might be difficult, but there are ways of influencing how money that's made or the profit that's made with these machines that are distributed. I mean, I don't think many good companies that can function in a society where everybody has become homeless. I mean, it just isn't gonna work. And along the way to such a dark future, I'm betting that there will be a lot of fist fights, and I don't think things will go smoothly in the direction that many companies think. In the human factor will come in and either tax overly successful companies or put in systems that make sure that everybody's getting a fair share. I don't know. When push comes to shove, how the average Joe will react, or how I would react, I don't think it will be pleasant, but Uh, uh, it might be that the way that things are going with labor and with robots, that there really isn't a future where there's a lot of jobs out there, and you just have to rejig the economic system different way. Even if the political system puts up a huge fight, I think they're gonna lose because when there is a lot of demand for changes in the underlying society, the operations of government, they won't have the chance. Uh, I was when I was coming out to the United States, it was just the beginning of the Iranian Revolution, and I can tell you that most governments are deadly afraid of a single enemy, and that single enemy is not in foreign countries. They're not foreigners. They're not cheap labor imported from. They are their own people, their own population. Like you see that Trump is desperate to start a war, or the U.S. politicians, because they want to deflect the attention of people to outside of United States, to those horrible Iranians and all, horrible North Koreans. They are the cause. And hey, these sentiments that the U.S. government has been good for me as an actor. Brings in attention. I mean, I'm getting gigs. They are very negative roles, but I didn't start wanting to be Hitler or wanting to be, somebody who gets killed in the movies all the time. But hey, it's business. But that's not reality, and I think that the U.S. elites are afraid of their own population because there has been so many economic changes that are induced by technology, or they're induced because of the way many big companies are doing business and just going out in the world and getting cheap labor, that they are afraid, and they are trying any means to either deflect attention or bring some good jobs back to keep people pacified. I don't know how things will end up, but well, the evolution of cheap labor is related to very strong deflationary trends in society, and it's also very much exasperated by technological advances in AI and robotics, and it's a really interesting subject. I had another video on zero marginal cost society, and I think we are all becoming communists, whether we like it or not. Well, yeah, I don't think that will affect some segments of population. For example, I don't think pretty blondes will ever submit to communism. I think that they just got too much talent. But some segments of society will have to live near the basic income threshold or a little bit above it. So we gotta have to see. The other point that I think is important is that I don't believe in a dark future economically, because once a society or a company or individuals learn a certain technology that can produce stuff in huge quantity, or they can do something much better, much cheaper, or once there is an abundance or ways of knowing how to bring this abundance of a given product or service, or we will never go back. I mean, there is limited history where a society that's so advanced technologically has digressed and has become poor again. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's happening is that many technologies that were making products or services, they become orphan because the society has learned to do things better. I mean, once society learns to make like free email available to anybody, like Gmail, I mean, are we going to go back? I mean, are we going to go back to days when you just have to use snail mail? I mean, I don't think that will happen even if there is a nuclear exchange. I think they will always have servers and they'll always have email. And the email probably is going to be free. So there is abundance in our future. I don't know. I think we all going to get a share of it, but maybe a lot of jobs will become orphaned, and we won't have a lot of them, or we will have jobs that are very different. Another way of that I think capitalism is going to survive, and this might sound very strange because it's coming from a source or ideas that are kind of alien to people. There was alien or Martian civilization in the solar system, and if you look at the ruins of Moon, you see that they had a magnificent buildings and magnificent creations, and I guess what I'm saying is that capitalism can survive if it can create magnificent things like make entire cities on the moon, or make resorts on Neptune moons, something like that. Stuff that's not so easy for average Joe to build, or there is a way out, but that's not by mass producing more of the same. Is coming up with things that are outrageous, like space elevators, or space tourism, stuff like that, or outrageous medical technology or stuff like that. Thank you for putting up with me and hanging on to the end of the lecture. Please, my stuff is very research oriented, and if you don't find them in too many places, please subscribe and at least leave a feedback. Thank you very much. I am trying to get a better camera to get my ideas across. Have a nice day.